London, 1876. The Priory stands polite and reserved, a house that pretends not to notice gossip. After dinner, a young lawyer retires to his room. There is water in the jug, laudanum for a toothache, and the comforting creak of stairs settling for the night. Then, disorder, a pain like a hook, a body folding in on itself. Doctors summoned in a rush of boot heels and whispered instructions. For 3 days, the house watches him suffer. "Tell us," they press. "Tell us who did this." He looks at them, pale and unwavering, and answers the one line that will freeze the room forever.
"I have nothing to say."
He dies. The Priory does not. What happened inside that house? And what if the killer was the one person no one suspected? Permit me to lay the cast neatly on the table. Charles Bravo, young, promising, particular about rules. A man who likes his future mapped, his household brisk, his will obeyed. Florence, his wife, rich by her own doing and the odd mercy of the law. The Married Women's Property Act of 1870 has allowed her to keep her own earnings and certain property separate. Not everything, not always, but enough to matter. She is accustomed to choosing her path and not given to surrender. Jane Cox, housekeeper and companion to Florence, a woman with steady eyes, loyal and not afraid to show it. The servants, watchful, underpaid, essential to the smooth lie a grand house must tell. Dr. James Manby Gully, Florence's former lover, famous, inconvenient, and precisely the sort of name newspapers like in fat black ink. A comfortable little company for a tragedy. Add to it a quiet object, a bedroom water jug that lives in Charles's room and is filled earlier by staff, and you have everything necessary for mischief and mystery. The engine purring beneath this story is not romance but arithmetic. Florence's fortune is not Charles's to command. Imagine the daily frictions, allowances counted, decisions queried, the polite tug-of-war over who pays and who decides. Friends later remember pressure, sharp words. One recalls that he demanded her fortune. One can almost hear the coolness in her reply. In another age it might have passed as an eccentric arrangement. In Victorian England, it is an insult to a certain kind of husband, and insults do not pass without consequence. Let us walk it carefully. Night 1. Dinner ends. Charles retires. The jug waits. The laudanum waits. He drinks water. He uses laudanum for his tooth. Presently, a sickness catches him by the throat. Vomiting, cramps, collapse. He's not a man to make a scene. His body makes it for him. Day 2. Doctors. More doctors. He is conscious in pieces. Someone urges him, kindly, then not, to name a culprit. He will not. I have nothing to say. The line sits between them like a closed door. Day 3. The struggle grows slower, not softer. At the end of it, he is very quiet. The Priory fills with the sort of hush that always follows a deed and never confesses it. The post-mortem supplies the plainest clue of the lot. Antimony. Almost certainly tartar emetic. In tiny medicinal doses, it can turn a stomach. In the dose found in him, it unmans the body, drains it, kills it. It is not a natural visitor. It must have been invited. Antimony is old, practical, and unromantic. It sits in some medicine cupboards in Victorian houses. It also sits in stables, having been mixed into certain horse preparations. The Priory has both cupboards and stables. If you are looking for access, the doors are propped invitingly open. It kills without flourish. It prefers to take its time. Consider the map of the room. The jug is not a public fountain. It lives with Charles. Filling it is easy. Trusting it is not. The whole plan hangs on Charles pouring from that jug and drinking. There is also the laudanum bottle, ordinary as a bedside Bible. Replace or cede that, and you have a route as private as a pulse. Food and wine at dinner, neat in fiction, untidy here. Others ate. The symptoms come later. The body's clock points toward the bedroom. And that, you see, is the first complication. Murder done at dinner is a public act. Murder done in a private room is a more daring kind. Enter, one by one. Florence. Money, freedom, a husband she did not love as he wished to be loved. Could she have snapped? Yes, if she had the chance. But the jug's privacy pricks the balloon. Timing, access, a steady nerve at the crucial moment. Is she a woman to risk the gallows? Perhaps. Is there proof she did? No. Jane Cox. Loyalty can be a blade. She disliked Charles with admirable clarity, but dislike is not antimony, and means and moment are thin as cobwebs. The servants. Houses run on their silence. Now and then silence breaks, a dismissal, a resentment, a foolish plan. But a poison done in a master's room is not cunning, it's reckless. Who gambles a life's livelihood on such a throw? Dr. Gully, a famous name from a past affair, useful to headlines, delicious to gossips, but he's not in the right place at the right time, and even notoriety must bow to the clock. The doctors, they arrived, argued and fumbled. That is not murder, it is human. Each suspect fits nicely until you push. Then the puzzle pieces sulk and refuse to sit side by side. There are, in fact, two acts to the public storm. The first inquest, brisk, careful, returns an open verdict. The jurors cannot say how antimony entered Charles. The thing is maddeningly simple and maddeningly unclear. Months later, the second inquest explodes into a public spectacle. Packed galleries, long columns of print, caricatures. Whispers pass from Hughes to gin shops. Dr. Gully is dragged through the press. Testimony clashes. Florence's private life is picked apart, yet the core question remains unanswered. How, exactly, did the poison enter his body? At the end, the jury thunders, willful murder. Very stirring, very final. No arrest follows. One might almost call it theatre, talented actors, excellent lighting, and not a murder to be had. Stand with me at the landing after midnight. The corridor is a thread pulled tight. The jug sits there, simple and still. A drawer noses halfway open to show bottles and little vials. Laudanum here, liniments there. The stable yard huddles sleepily. Leather and straw and the faint bitter perfume of draughts used for horses. These are ordinary things. We do not fear them because they don't look dangerous. Antimony, after all, has no smell of villainy. It is simply there, waiting to be misunderstood or invited to do a job. Let's try the murder route and see where it leads. Route 1. The jug. Add a dose earlier, trust the man to drink later, and pray no one else touches it. Possible, but foolhardy. Route 2. The laudanum. An ambitious mind might doctor the bottle, an easy reach at night, a taste he already expects. Risky, yes, but less so than walking in with a glass and expecting him to drink. Route 3. Dinner. Untidy, as we have observed, and unlikely to produce the very specific timing we see. Each route wants motive, means, access, and nerve. Our suspects, human as they are, wobble on at least one leg, some on two. Now then, there is one person we have not interrogated properly. It is the sort of oversight that makes a detective's ears heat with embarrassment. Charles Bravo. Not simple suicide, not a melodrama with letters and a farewell. Something colder and more in character. Control misapplied. Consider, he needs power and cannot get it by argument. The law has shifted. Florence is firm. The household does not yield. Men in such corners often reach for uglier tools. A threat is one. A demonstration is another. A tiny dose that makes someone compliant, sick enough to fear, well enough to live, would serve as a lesson, would it not? Now picture a scene that requires no help, just one person alone. The room is dim, the mind is busy, bottles sit neighborly close. Laudanum for pain, antimony solution from the cupboard, or even from the stable shelf where no one asks questions. A man reaches, thinking of a quick swallow to calm a tooth that would not be calmed. A hand hesitates, then takes the wrong vial, or the right vial in the wrong amount, wrong bottle, wrong measure, one sip too soon. It is an ugly little possibility, because it fits too well. Motive, to frighten, to bend, to win. Means, plainly at hand. Opportunity, entirely private. Character, consistent with a man who prefers the world arranged to his liking. One does not have to love the theory to admit that it explains the evidence with the fewest gaps. And then we return to his line, and it takes on a new temperature. I have nothing to say. Is that gallantry? Is that fear of what the truth would reveal about him? Or is it the last act of a controlling man, to control the story, even as it consumes him? If Florence meant to kill, why risk a plan that needs precise timing and points back to his private room? If Jane plotted, where is the proof of her hand at the crucial minute? If a servant risked everything, why choose a route so likely to betray the whole house? If Dr. Galley schemed from afar, how did he hold the jug? And if Charles made a fatal mistake, who exactly is left to accuse? Were this today, we would swab the lip of the jug, test the laudanum, sample the shelf in the stable, lift traces from cloth and cork, and chart movements against the chemistry. We might have a tidy answer and an arrest. In 1876, the science draws a careful circle around the body and refuses to step outside it. Thus, the case suits the salon, tight, exasperating, and refusing any definite conclusion. No court named the killer. Florence lived under a cloud. Jane's loyalty dissolved into silence. Dr. Gully's reputation picked up a stain it could not scrub. The servants went back to being furniture and other people's stories. Only the question lingers at the foot of the bed. What really happened in that room? With modern forensics, would we know the truth? Or would the story grow even more tangled? Tell me what you think. Murder, suicide, or a fatal mistake? I'll be waiting in the comments, like a detective in a doorway. We are still haunted by mysteries we cannot solve, because uncertainty is the most uncomfortable truth of all. Stay curious, ask more, believe less, because the past doesn't just echo, it repeats.